Some people think that relocating from the United States to another country is super easy. You essentially just walk out of your house in the middle of the night in your pajamas and you'll eventually get where you're going. Other people think that it's such an onerous process that it's just essentially impossible. Over the past 2 years, I've been initiating the process, going through it slowly, checking off all my boxes, and learning about what it's like to actually potentially move from the United States to another country. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on the documentation that I've needed to collect, how I've collected it, and some surprises along the way that I did not see coming.
Better believe in your mind, 'cause it's everything. You could mold, shape, find almost anything.
It always makes sense to plan things out. I think you're always going to get better results if you plan things ahead of time. If you want to move from one house to another, even within your own town, it doesn't make a lot of sense to just wake up in the middle of the night and walk outside in your pajamas and stroll through town and find a house and crawl through a window and and move into it. That's fairly obvious to us that that's a bad idea. There's just no planning involved. You just run out and do it right away. And the same holds true for moving to another country. So over the past year and change, probably about 2 years or so, we've been doing a lot of footwork and a lot of jabbering on this channel, sharing with you guys what our footwork has been like. And in this video, what I want to focus on isn't choosing which country. That's in video 1. It's not about looking at the individual areas within a country to decide where to move to in that country. That's also going to be decided during our scouting trip that we're going to be doing next year. What I want to talk about specifically in this video are the types of documents and the things that you should be preparing ahead of time and the types of people that you should be talking to ahead of time before you just run out of your house in your pajamas looking for some open window to crawl into. Now, every country in the world has its own set of requirements for getting residency within that country. The United States has, what it lays out, and some of those requirements are a little bit onerous, and that's why I tend to presume that there's so much illegal immigration into the United States because our system is just so filled with red tape, and it's just so onerous on people that people are always trying to find a way around it. Not every country in the world is like that. Some countries in the world are very simple. Some countries in the world, you only have to just set up a bank account. You throw a certain amount of money in that bank account, and they will give you a residency based on the idea that you are kind of investing within their country. Don't quote me on this, but I believe Indonesia might be one of those countries where you just need a certain number of hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can just pop it into a bank there, and you get your residency that way. With Uruguay, they have their own set of requirements, and I'm going to be talking to those in this video, not because this is going to inform you no matter what country you decide to go in the world, but it gives you kind of a sense of what are some requirements for some places, and then you can look up your own requirements in whatever country you might be interested in. So I'm going to be specifically talking about Uruguayan requirements for gaining residency. One of the nice things about Uruguay is that their residency process is fairly straightforward. Like any government bureaucratic process, there are hoops you have to jump through and everything. But it's basically, as it's been explained to me, it's a process of just pretty much checking off the boxes. We require this, and this. And if you can prove that you have this, and this, then you're in. It's not a type of situation where you have to go in front of a panel and plead your case or anything like that. It's just you can prove that you satisfy these requirements and you're in. So the requirements that are put in place as of the time of this video recording, now in 2025, are that you need to have a birth certificate that you bring with you, you need to have vaccination records, you need to have an FBI background check on you. There's some other things, but those are the 3 first documents that I want to talk about. Now, there's a word that I'm going to be using a lot in this video, and when I first started down this road, this was a new word to me. I'd never heard this word before. I heard someone speak it, and I was like, how the hell do you even spell that word? I'm going to put it down on the screen right here so you know how to spell it. And the word is apostilled. An apostilling is a process that is done on a document in order to authenticate that it is a genuine document from the country that issued the document. The history behind the apostilling process is actually one of making things more convenient for people. There were lots of countries in the world, and they wanted to make kind of a standardized process for people being able to move back and forth and just do business in different countries. So they came up with a process whereby each participating government would apostille certain documents to clarify that this is actually an official document. The idea being that if I just went to Uruguay with my birth certificate, they don't know whether that's a fake birth certificate or a real birth certificate. So they have this apostilling process where you can take your certificate in the country of origin, you can get it apostilled to demonstrate that it's actually an official document and that it's legitimate, and then you can take that document with the apostille to the foreign government, and then they can have some degree of confidence that this document is actually legitimate. So some of the documents I'm going to be talking about in this video need to be apostilled. One is your birth certificate. That's something that you need to have apostilled. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do that. Another is an FBI background check, and I'm not going to talk quite as much about how to do that because I'm actually in the process of getting my FBI background check right now. In fact, later on this morning, we're going to be heading out and continuing that process. The basic process for getting something apostilled in terms of a birth certificate, what we needed to do is we needed to get our birth certificates, and I just got fresh birth certificates for everyone. And I live here in New England, and in New England, the states are really tiny. You know, if you trip and fall over a stone, you fall into a different state, which is constantly irritating for a license to carry a firearm because none of the states seem to really honor the license to carry requirements of any other state. So you always got to be kind of cautious about that. You know, when you're driving from one place to another, you're always going through a different state. And not surprisingly, all the people in my family, we were all born in a different state. So I had to go to 3 different states to get 3 different birth certificates and discover 3 different processes for getting them. And I wanted to bring that up because I think it's important to recognize that not every state is going to be offering birth certificates in the same manner. Now, the place where I went to kind of feel my way through the process was the Secretary of State's office within the states in question. I called them up, and when I call up people on the phone, it never bothers me to open up a conversation by saying, I have no idea what I'm doing. I need some help. I appreciate your time. Can you kind of walk me through this process? And that's what I did when I was talking to people about getting our birth certificates. I called up, found out like, well, where do we get duplicate birth certificates? You know, where do we get our apostilling? Because they're not from the same places necessarily. Though in some states, I was able to order my birth certificate, or the birth certificate of one of my members of my family, and at the same time have that apostilled before it gets sent to me. So that was like a one-stop shop. That was really simple. One state, I was able to go through a website to get all that done. Another state, I had to mail in an application through the mail, so I was able to do that way. In another state, I was able to order my birth certificate through the mail. And once I got the birth certificate, I then needed to go to the Secretary of State's office, in the closest city where they had one, and I needed to get the document apostilled. All of those things together, they didn't cost a lot of money. I think they were somewhere between $20 and maybe $50 for each birth certificate and apostille. My home state, it was kind of an irritating situation where I had to order the birth certificate and then physically bring it to an office to get it apostilled. But the apostille, I think, cost like $6 or something like that. So that was kind of the ballpark. And every state that I had experience with was different on those. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind. In terms of moving to Uruguay, we have no idea if or when we would ever want to do it. What I'm doing at this point is a little bit weird. I'm a prepper, so I prepare ahead of time. I know it's crazy for most people that think you're going to move to just different countries, get on a plane and go there. I'm a prepper. I like to lay things out in advance. I don't know if or when we're ever going to be leaving to move to Uruguay, but I wanted to go through the process now for a couple of reasons. One is that some of the documents that I'm gathering right now are good forever. The birth certificates that I'm gathering right now in Uruguay, at the time of this recording, if you're an adult, they are good forever. You can get your birth certificate and you can get it apostilled, and that's good forever. And that kind of makes sense. It's like, did your birth change or something like that? Though oddly enough, for children, you need to have it be fresh when you're going to Uruguay. You need to have the birth certificate and the apostille be within a year. That said, I still got a birth certificate and an apostille for my boy, and he's not an adult. And the reason that I did that wasn't because I think that we're going to be leaving to try to move there over the next year. The reason is that, it's twofold. One, I would like to get a new one every year. So we're always constantly fresh, and we always have the ability, at a moment's notice, to to start triggering those plans. The other reason is that I thought that there was value in kind of practicing my way through the process. I think his was on the cheaper side. It was like 25 bucks. So if I just pop 25 bucks a year, it's kind of that insurance to always have a fresh document. And also it just gives me experience. If I needed to do it again, I could do it again. And that brings me to another point, which is I've taken copious notes on everything that I've done. I've got a file folder and both digital and physical, and I'm keeping records of everything that I do. So I've got a folder on birth certificates, and then I've got one for myself and Amber and for River. And I've kept notes because we're all from different states about what the process was like. For River, what was the process like? Where did you have to go? Was it a website? What's the website? Were there hassles involved in getting it? Take a note of those hassles. Did you do anything wrong? You can do that right the next time. So I've been going through the process both for education and also to have just a fresh set of documents. So birth certificates were one thing. Another item that you needed was FBI background checks. This is essentially just for countries to try to clear that they're not letting known criminals into their borders. Getting an FBI background check seems fairly straightforward so far. I think it costs about $18 per background check. You go online to their website. By the way, down in the description below, as much as it is possible, I'm going to put links to all the different places that are relevant. You go to their website, and there's a process for getting an FBI background check. They also call it like a rap sheet, and they have some other much longer, more boring name for it as well. But the essential idea is it's a list of all the crimes that you've committed in your lifetime. So you go there and you initiate this $18 background check, but then what they require is fingerprints, and that's what we're going to be doing later on this afternoon. And to get our fingerprints over to them, and I know a lot of you guys listening to this will be like, Big Brother always wants something related to my biometrics. Yeah, I've got mixed feelings on it, but moving to another country it's not a guarantee. It's not a right of you born as an American citizen to be able to move to another country. It's a privilege granted to you by that other country, or maybe not. Not all countries want to let people in. So you want to play on their team. You got to play by their rules, so to speak. So it's not my favorite thing in the world to do, and I'm not a big fan of biometrics, but this is something I think is important, so we're kind of, gritting our teeth and just, going along with it. The fingerprinting process, as far as I'm aware, is a little bit more expensive than the background check itself. I believe that it's like $50 or so, but again, I'm going to know more about that this afternoon. You wonder, why am I shooting this video now instead of this afternoon? Well, the reason is because of actually where I'm in right now. I'm in my greenhouse, and this is another thing that is really important if you are considering moving, and it's related to what's all around me right now, and this is what I've got to be working on this afternoon, so I want to get this video done right now. So FBI background check, and that does need to be apostilled, and at the time of this recording, I do not know the apostilling process for that yet because I haven't done it. I'm still doing the research on that. The next document that you need, and this is another one that some conservatives are going to roll their eyes at, and I think unnecessarily so, is a vaccination record. Some countries require certain vaccinations for people coming in, and I know vaccinations get into a really hotly contested political topic, and I think that's really unfortunate. I think any rational person can agree that some vaccinations are helpful and some vaccinations are more harm than they're worth. Even the FDA has put vaccinations out into the public and then pulled them later on because they found out by them going out into the public and people having experiences with them that vaccination was actually more harmful than good that it was doing. So any rational person, I think, can agree that some vaccinations are helpful, some vaccinations maybe are not so helpful, and some vaccinations, it depends kind of on who you are, depending on what type of person you are, your age, your sex, your whatever other kind of medical situations you might have. Some vaccinations are going to be helpful for certain people and not for others. So I know it's a hotly contested topic, but to move to Uruguay, there are certain vaccinations that are required, and they're not really all that extreme. At the time of this recording, I believe it's only measles, mumps, rubella, and tetanus. I think that those are the only two that are required for adults moving into the country. So digging up vaccination records was something that I had to do as well. Now, vaccination records do not need to be apostilled like the birth certificate and the FBI background check, but you do need them printed out on some sort of official letterhead with contact information on the top. By the way, I should preface all this by mentioning that all of these documents, if you are to decide to move to another country, they may need to be all translated into the language of that country. The official language in Uruguay is Spanish, so all these documents, if I wanted to move to Uruguay, are going to have to be translated into Spanish. But that is something that I can do in country later on. Anyway, getting back to vaccination records, the process for getting those was that I just contacted the hospitals where people had had appointments when they were younger and requested the vaccination records. It was actually oddly easy. I guess getting medical records generally, there are a lot of hurdles to go through. There's a lot of like clearances, and we need this document signed and this document signed. And I actually went through the process being kind of vague about what I wanted for health records. So we went through all the the high-level security clearances, and then at the end of the process, when it came time to say, well, what we wanted, we were told, oh, just vaccination records? Oh, we don't need any of that stuff. It's essentially like I could call up and get your vaccination records. They're very free with them, apparently. So I just made the request, and I had that stuff sent to me, and I got different qualities of returns based on different family members. My son, who's the youngest, I was able to get all of his vaccination records very easily. They just got delivered to me. Slam dunk, no big deal. Amber, who is the second youngest, all of her vaccination records were still available, and we just got those yesterday, and all looks good on that front. So I've got all that stuff. I've got a whole folder full of departure docs, and those just got thrown in there. My vaccination records are a little bit more murky because at the time of this recording, I'm getting close to 50. When I had all these vaccinations, it was a long, long time ago, and my vaccination records only involve a few that I had gotten in the 90s. Now, one of those is MMR, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, and I don't know whether or not I had a tetanus on there. I believe I had a tetanus on there, although the thing with tetanus is you kind of want to keep that one current anyway, so I don't really mind getting another tetanus vaccine. I'd be interested in not getting unnecessary extra vaccines that I've already been immunized against. But the point of this is that if you are looking to get these records, it's good to get them early because hospitals, I just kind of presumed, especially with the rates that hospitals charge people, you would think with all the money that they're making, they can afford to keep someone's medical history, I don't know, forever, or at least like 100 years until they're certainly dead. Well, they threw out a lot of my early medical history. It just doesn't exist anymore. So that's a warning for you guys. If you're getting on the older side, you may want to get this information sooner than later before the hospitals throw it out. The way that I did that is that I just went to a medical records request department, the phone number within the hospital. Like I said earlier in this video, kind of fumbled my way through, said I have no idea what I'm doing, but I need to get X, Y, and Z. Can you help me with that? Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I was able to be directed to the right place in all circumstances. The next set of documents that I want to talk about are financial documents. Now, I know that some countries are really interested in financial documents. In fact, my brother, him and I, we love each other. We care about each other deeply. There's no animosity between us. But politically, we have very different views on things. I'm going to caricature him a little bit, but he's like, anything that Trump does is awful, and anything that the FDA approves to be injected into me, I'm 100% down for that. If you watch my channel, that's not exactly the way that I view the world. I'm kind of like, vaccines are hit and miss. Trump is hit or miss. Biden is hit or miss. I'm kind of like always in the middle, navigating, and he's definitely on a team at the moment. But that said, interestingly enough, we're both investigating the possibility of leaving the country right now. And I had a conversation with him recently, and I found out that he's planning on moving to a European country. It's not a country that I would be particularly interested in moving to, but we just chatted a little bit about what the procedures are for that country, and it was interesting that the procedures for that country are pretty much like all financial. Like the background checks didn't seem to be coming up for that country, and the vaccination stuff didn't seem to be coming up for that country. It was all just financial. We just want to know how much money do you have? So that was his process. For that was just all financial. And while Uruguay does not I almost said Uruguay because that's the way we pronounce it here in the United States, but I'm trying to practice saying it the way they say it in country, Uruguay. So I keep stumbling over that. But Uruguay does require certain financial documents. They essentially want to make sure that you make it at least the minimum wage of people in the country. So that if you're going to move there, you have some demonstrated ability to kind of take care of yourself so you don't become a ward of the state. I think that's completely rational. If a country is going to bring someone in, they need to say that, or demonstrate that I'm not going to be a burden on you, I'm here to help and make your country better and greater. So Uruguay, they request things like bank records, your financial history. I got a list here because I can't remember all of these. Also, your recent income in a document that has been penned and signed by an authorized CPA. And these documents all need to be translated into the language once you get into country. And the CPA letter that verifies what your income has been over the past several years needs to be apostilled as well. I haven't gone through that process yet, so I can't comment on what the apostilling process is for that financial document, but that is something that I'm looking forward to at this point, that we have to get all the financial stuff. I started with the birth certificates, the FBI stuff, the vaccination stuff, and now we're moving on to the income part of the equation. Like I said at the beginning of this video, moving to another country, it's not as simple as leaving your house in the middle of the night in your pajamas and wandering off into the forest somewhere. There's a process that you can go through that'll make it much smoother when you actually get there, and we're going through all that process now to make sure that when we get there, we've crossed all our T's, dotted all of our I's, and been through the process enough that we can roll with the curveballs as they come up. Because I know that there's going to be curveballs. Even as much as I've prepared, I know there's going to be some things that are going to come up and be a little bit of a surprise. So I'm ready to be surprised. So when I am surprised, I won't be surprised. Generally speaking, one tip that I would have is that it's really helpful to talk to a relocation specialist in whatever country you are going to be potentially moving to. I've been talking to multiple relocation specialists, 3 of them at this point, down in Uruguay. And I gain bits from all the conversations that I have from all different people, and I think there's one that's going to be kind of like our primary when we get down there, is going to be the one that we're going to be going with. And I think that's really helpful because I've kind of laid out my understanding, there's a big asterisk around that, my Praxis's understanding of the process for Uruguay, but I have no sense of the process for other countries. So you really need to find a relocation specialist within that country and be communicating with them, asking all the stupid questions, not being embarrassed by asking things that you think might be simple or obvious. There's all sorts of things that are just very different between one country and another. Here's just a quick example. Before I get into that example, I do want to say another person that's great to talk to is realtors. In the country. Start having those conversations. I've been having those conversations with a realtor. When we go down there at the beginning of next year, we do want to look around, and I want to come out of there owning some kind of a property for 2 reasons. One, so we could have a crash landing site if we ever need one. If there's any question about getting into the country, we can say, we are property owners. We've been here before. I think in terms of soft influence, that's probably a positive thing. And additionally, the financial system here in the United States is not looking too hot, and investing your wealth out into other parts of the world, there's diversification benefits of that. We're going to try to swing it as a rental property in the meantime and see if we can maybe make some income off of it. That's going to be tricky. I've done rental property here in the United States, and it can be a bit of a nightmare. And if you are remote, I can imagine it being even more of a nightmare. So we're going to have to kind of feel that out and see how it goes. But at the very least, we want to have a place that we could go to, and as a diversification of our assets, so they're not all in one basket here in the United States. So anyway, coming back to what I was talking about, just the differences between different countries. Here's just one example in terms of rental property, in fact. In the United States, when you talk about an unfurnished apartment, if you were going to rent an unfurnished apartment, oftentimes, usually, an unfurnished apartment kind of means that it doesn't have like tables and chairs and things like that. It probably has things like an oven or a refrigerator or a hot water heater. In Uruguay, an unfinished apartment doesn't even necessarily have a hot water heater. So there are all sorts of differences of things that, living within a certain society, you come to kind of take for granted that it just, that's the way things have always been with me growing up. And I think that people can be rather myopic in terms of, the way they see different ways of living throughout the world, and forget that just because we do things a certain way in one country doesn't mean that that's the only way that they're done. So having a relocation specialist and somebody that you can field all those like idiot questions for, like to ask someone, well, I'm going to be going to live in an apartment. Will there be a hot water heater, or do I have to buy my own hot water heater and bring it to install it? Nobody would ever think about that here in the United States, but that's the kind of thing that you get a heads up on when you start talking with people who have helped other people in your situation, do what you're trying to do. So I would highly recommend doing something like that. The relocation specialists that I'm talking to, they're costing somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000, per person to help them help people go through the process. Now, can you do it yourself? Probably. Can you do it yourself without any horrifying inconveniences? And without any, coming up against surprises like that, but there's no hot water heater in my apartment. Probably not. Going in completely ignorant to a situation, you're probably going to make mistakes. Now, are the mistakes going to cost you more than hiring the help of somebody? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But for our situation, especially with there being multiples of us and everybody's kind of at a different place in their life, it's made sense for me. So I've been talking to a relocation specialist. The last thing I just wanted to mention is the importance, like I said, of taking notes. I know I said this earlier, but I want to reiterate. It's so important. Keep all of your documents together. As you start collecting documents, put them in a folder. Make digital copies of all your documents. Scan them all. Scanners aren't that expensive. I bought one recently for a book that I was illustrating. I think it was like $70 or something like that, and I found it so helpful for so many other things. Keep all your documents, scan all your documents, even if the scans are not what is required to move to another country. It's better to have it than not have it. If you were in a complete pinch, you can maybe at least kind of stall things down a little bit. It's like, look, I've got the document, just give me a few days and I can get you the original, et cetera, et cetera. Keep your documents in a secure place. Get copies, backups, scans of all those documents. And another thing we've been doing, and again, it talks to diversification, is converting USD to Uruguayan pesos. I did this, back earlier in the year or so. I think it was maybe around April or something like that. Between then and now, the exchange rate has been kind of flat, so I haven't lost or made money on the exchange. But if the United States currency started to really devalue, I'd be happy that I had already done this. And the nice thing about converting to currency is that you can always just convert it right on back. If in the future you decide that you aren't going to end up using whatever currency you are you had transferred to, you can always transfer it back. Now, there is a price to be paid in the transferring. Every single time you convert it, whatever bank you're working with is going to take a percentage of it, and I think that's just the cost of doing business. It's essentially insurance, like all prepping is. It's insurance, and hopefully we don't need it, but sometimes it becomes a lifesaver. So those are the things that I've been doing in terms of documentation, collecting things, and going through the process of exposing myself to the process so that if and when we get to a situation where I need all these documents and we need to move and we need this stuff done yesterday, even when we ever get to a point like that, I will be able to have a lot of the stuff already done, a lot of the experience already in my back pocket. And are there going to still be surprises? Yes, there absolutely are still going to be surprises. Will laws potentially change? Yes, laws potentially will change, and all the work that I did in this area might be rendered completely useless. But what's not useless is the experience of having gone through it, know that you've gone through it before, and just kind of have a sense that I went through this before, I can go through this again, I kind of know this landscape, just giving yourself kind of a familiarity with things. And again, every country is different, but this is my process of potentially moving to Uruguay. That's it. I hope you found this video helpful, and thanks for watching. Wait, I was going to talk about what's going on here. This is the last thing. Okay, it's like a bonus. If you want to view it as that, maybe it's like extra helping you didn't ask for. I'm working on the flooring in our east greenhouse. Our west greenhouse is kind of gorgeous. It's got a grass area that's mostly just covered in sourdough, which is edible, but not all that attractive and not very comfortable to walk over. But it's an attractive entrance to the house, our west greenhouse, and that's by the driveway. That's where people come in. The east greenhouse doesn't get trafficked as much, so I didn't do it right away. but I'm doing it right now. And the reason is that if we needed to go to Uruguay, I would love it to be a situation where we could go temporarily and then come back. You know, keep this place and it's a place to come back to. So you get 2 feet in 2 different locations. But if there was a circumstance where for some reason we could not come back, it would be nice if this place didn't look like a shithole, and it could be rented out or sold. Probably just sold at that point. And it's important to finish projects like this. Like if you've been holding off on something around your house, like trim around windows, or fixing like a broken glass window or something like that, or if you have a really ugly greenhouse attached to the side of your house, it's a good idea to kind of get that stuff all ready so that the house is ready for rental or for sale if you do need to leave and go to a different place. And the bonus, the perk to that, and I always like whenever I'm doing prepping for it to be multi-purpose, the perk is that you get to live in the nice house that you deserve. So if you're doing the stuff early, it's going to allow you to enjoy the stuff as well. One of my aunts recently moved down to South Carolina from New England. Beautiful place down there. Climate is very much like Uruguay down in the Carolinas. And just as they were leaving, her and her husband, they were finishing up their house, and she was lamenting to my mother, and my mom was telling me this story, about how there were all these things in their house that while they were living there, they never finished. And then when they finally did finish, it was for somebody else to enjoy and appreciate. If ultimately you think that you're going to be selling your home someday, why not fix those things now? Because then you can enjoy those things for all those years. So that's an additional benefit of getting your place ready for sale, is that you get to appreciate it in the meantime. And that is actually the last thing that I want to say in this video. Again, I hope you found this whole video helpful. Thank you very much for watching. Hey YouTube preppers, if you enjoyed this video, here's another that I think you might like. But before you click on it, I wanted to take a moment to thank all the people you see on the right-hand side of your screen. They help to support all the work that I do here over at patreon.com. If you'd like to join them and get your name added to the list, the link's below.